Welcome to the Successful Nurse Coach podcast. On this podcast, Laura
and Shelby, both board-certified nurse coaches, show you how to make as much money as you want in private practice as a nurse coach. Hello, and welcome back to the Successful Nurse Coach podcast. Is both of us, Laura and Shelby, here today for a joyous episode where we're going to talk about your most favorite thing of how to do the things you don't want to do. As always, this episode is inspired by work, by coaching with our clients this week. And Laura hosted a call yesterday and I hosted a call yesterday, and I messaged her afterwards and I was like, man, that one was a little bumpy. That one was a little rough. And she was like, yeah, mine too. So I think there's like a nuance I want to bring to the conversation of like, this is an anticipated part of the journey. And also I think that maybe we can give you guys some mindset frameworks of like why it's important to embrace the suck sometimes, because it's definitely not all work you're going to love in your business every single day, day in and day out. And maybe we can pop that bubble very gently for you today on the podcast.
Yeah, I feel like me personally, Laura here, I don't like to do things I don't want to do. Yeah, everything that we want to have requires us to do things we don't want to do. It's just finding alignment, like in that journey. It's like I'm willing to do lots of things I don't want to do to have the things that I want, but I'm not willing to do a bunch of things I don't want to do to not have the things that I want. And often that's the framework that I struggle with. Never had that been so present for me than when starting Nurse Life Coach Academy, because it was so much work for so little reward for so long. Yeah. That was the first time I really had to flex that muscle in a way that once we started, there was no stopping. And I'm so grateful for it. And I've had coaches reflect back to me. It's like, well, if you can do that, like imagine all the other things you can do. Like you could write a book, you could do a TED Talk, you could do this, you could start another company one day. Like if you can make yourself do things that you don't want to do, that all point to something that you really want to have, the whole world opens up for you.
Correct. And I often see I see tons of other coaches' stuff on the internet. And I think that there is this, if you guys know what desire marketing is versus like pain point marketing. So desire marketing being that people, coaches, healers are selling to your desired outcome, right? Of this like feeling awesome and in alignment, and that your authentic, heart-centered business. That, for sure, I was sold on that in the beginning. Like the ER was sucking the absolute life out of me. And I understood that like entrepreneurship was going to be challenging, but the idea that there was a different reality that I could show up for was very appealing to me. And sometimes I think that we miss the nuance here of like, you can have a heart-centered business that you love showing up for. And even in seasons where dopamine is running really low and there's not a lot of positive dopamine feedback in your business and you're like grinding it out, like with Nurse Life Coach Academy, like it doesn't cancel each other out. Just because it's hard, it doesn't mean that it's still like aligned for you.
Yes.
And that's maybe what I want to like tease apart here, because we're being sold this idea that it's all, if it is aligned, then it's all rainbows and butterflies. But I think
biggest crock of shit. It's like the biggest crock of shit. And that's the danger of desire marketing when you're talking to potential entrepreneurs, is you're trying to sell the dream. And yet we know that the dream has sour moments and very, you said difficult. Yes, there's going to be days it does not feel good. It is not fun, and you're not going to want to do it. And you have to have the discipline to say, all right, in 30 days, if I still feel the same, I'll change course. But for the next 30 days, I can do anything for 30 days. Like that's so different than feeling like grind culture. It's going to be so hard. You're going to suffer every moment of every day to have what you want. That's not true. But also how to build like an aligned practice where soul clients are attracted to you. And, that's also bullshit too. Those are the two bookends. I think we want to talk, and we want to weave in between, because I think the most real that we can get with you all, the better.
Yeah.
Right? The better.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. I think that there are, I see it all over my feed all the time. The people that are most inspiring to me, the coaches highlight reels that are the most inspiring to me is not content where people are behind their laptop for 6 hours a day, right? It's that they're out taking long walks with their family and they're going hiking on the weekend and like all the fluffy payoff that comes from like really diligent hard work. And I think that especially when you're new and you're comparing your step one to someone's step 15,000 after they've been in the game for 10 to 15 years, because I believe, Laura, you can correct me if you believe differently here, but I believe that eventually there comes a tipping point where if you've mastered this art of like building a community, investing a lot of time and energy over an extended period of time, not 12 months, but like 12 years, that there becomes a sustainable ecosystem that you get to step into and you're a household name and people talk about you all the time. And not just like 5 people are talking about you, but like 5,000 people or 50,000 people are talking about you whenever like they're a referral source for you. And so I do believe that once there are stages to this, but like in the beginning, and for most people listening to this, it's really easy to look at someone who's been doing it for 10 to 15 years and be like, well, how do I just duplicate that and just have that? And I'm like, that is someone's entire life's work that you're looking at right now. And your life's work is on page 1 of your book here.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I just messaged a mentee this morning. We were talking about targeted ads. And so she has been killing it in her practice, like truly just doing the thing. She moved across the country. She's really had about 10 weeks since she hit the gas in her business in a meaningful way and a sustainable way. So in my opinion, she's 10 weeks into startup, right? Mm-hmm. And she talks to a friend who says targeted ads are the way to go because she just had a bunch of no's in a row and bad leads. That's where she is right in this particular moment this week. Well, targeted ads start looking pretty damn good. I can just pump $500 out and have qualified leads delivered to me that book, and then I just coach and then they just pay me. Like, that sounds really fun. And it's like, what works in kindergarten doesn't work in 4th grade, because in 4th grade, you have all these skills that that you inherently, you know how to type, you know how to use a calculator, you know how to do math, you know how to write complete sentences. Like, you have this acumen where paid ads could be absolutely the best next thing for you to do. But it's really easy for a newbie, me included, to be like, God, I should have a podcast. Oh, I should have this. Mm-hmm. And I should have that. But if I had that, I wouldn't even know what to do with it.
Right.
No clue.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I hope what's shining through in this moment is just like the level of nuance.
Yes.
This conversation, it's so, oh God, it's very delicate. And I know on the podcast a lot, we try to, I don't want to say steer clear of nuanced conversations, but inevitably, I know when I get on a mentorship call later this week, they're going to be like, you said in this podcast episode 6 years ago, blah, blah, and that's kind of the beauty of our mentorship is we get to tailor this very generic advice into your nuanced situation.
Right.
And so I just want to like put that big fat caveat here, but the call I was on yesterday, everyone was just kind of like lackluster of, I don't want to do that. Like, that doesn't feel good. That feels hard. I'm not good at tech, or like, I can't physically, mentally, emotionally take on one more thing right now because my life is so full. And I totally want to empathize with that of like, if you are underwater, that's not the day to like buy a new thing or learn a new system or build out this new email campaign. Like, wait until we're in a better headspace.
Right.
But also I was telling them the metaphor that I can't stop using ever since I heard it about the difference between cows and buffalo. And whenever there's a storm rolling in across the prairie, if you can like visualize, whenever cows see a storm, they start running away from the storm. They know the storm is coming. They can feel it. They know it's going to be hard. They're going to get wet, all the things. And they run away until they hit a fence, and then they get stuck, and then the storm lingers over them for longer. And now they're tired, and now they're wet because they just spent all this time and energy running in the wrong direction, and now they're stuck. Versus buffalo, whenever the buffalo see the storm, they just look at the storm, calibrate towards the storm, and go full charge to run as quickly as they can underneath it. They still get wet. It's still hard. I'm sure that the buffalo don't particularly love it, but it's over faster And that is the mindset shift that I want to leave everybody here with today. Whenever you're looking at a to-do list and you're not particularly inspired by it, it's like the to-do list, there's no one to delegate it to. Even having a team, we have a team where we can delegate, and there's still some things that I can't. And I still have to be the one to like calibrate my north towards the storm and just take charge. Like, you just have to figure it out. There's no help desk. There's no one coming. Even if you're in our programs, like there's simply some parts that you have to figure out on your own. There are skills you have to build on your own, and they usually come through just like picking up the pen and paper and just beginning. That is going to save you more time and more heartache than literally anything else in owning a small business. It's just like take ownership, take responsibility, and start running at that tornado in the distance.
I have such a great case study for this. I'm going to make it really real. We really encourage mentees to do workshops, to do something where you are presenting. We have training on this. We have all sorts of stuff on this. We really, really recommend it. And so your first workshop, like that whole process, I'm doing it with a mentee right now, wrote it all out, all the different steps. It's probably, because it's her first one, it's probably going to be 20 hours of work, I would say, to deliver it, like to create it, to create the Canva graphics, to figure out the marketing, to set some systems, to make the social media posts. And there is a chance after that 20 hours that no one will come. There's also a chance that 5 people will come, but no one will hire you. There is a chance, like all these chances. It can't be like, you can't be doing that 20 hours of work with the only objective being getting a paying client. That 20 hours of work is you learning how to do workshops. And there's the value. All the value is in the skill building. It has nothing to do with the freaking outcome. And that mindset is going to serve you, because that's the mindset you have to have forever in business. You're constantly doing, like our mentor did a bunch of business stuff. It all didn't work. He lost a bunch of money, and he talked about all the things he learned. Right? Like, that's it. That's it. That's the game we're playing. You can't lose. You can't lose from that perspective. But if you don't have that perspective, you just kind of lose every week in you're just losing every week in new entrepreneurship.
Right. That makes it so hard to show up for.
To show up for. It's like, for fuck's sake, I have a babysitter. I'm 20 hours in and nobody shows up, and I'm writing 0 on my monthly goal setting. Shoot me. Right? Because we're just looking at it the wrong way.
Yeah. And this is where you have a lot of control over your thoughts, right? I mean, we don't have any control. Okay, so actually another really great example is I posted about this in our mentorship, but I hosted a workshop for NLCA a few weeks ago. And y'all, it might be the worst workshop I've ever done. Like, genuinely, and it doesn't like mean anything about me as a coach or a person. It just wasn't great. And it was I don't think that the workshop itself was bad. I just think that it was the wrong topic for the wrong crowd. And as we are learning about, our nurses that are attracted to us, and for NLCA, the people who are like showing up in our bubble, it's new. It's new for me. I won't pretend to claim expert. How we build community over there is different than how we've built our successful nurse coach community. There's similarities and there's overlap, but it's the language I have to use. I have to be very intentional. It has to be different. Like, it's almost like I'm learning a different dialect of nurse coaching lingo to be able to communicate effectively with this new community. And I posted in our mentorship group that like there was an opportunity here for me to just be like really down in the dumps about how terrible this workshop was, and that I didn't feel good about it, and it wasn't my best work, and I know that I could have done better. Or there's an opportunity for me to like sit and evaluate of like, okay, that was a moment to be cringy, and I didn't back down. I leaned full into the cringe for an hour and a half. Like and I learned a lot about the types of workshops that we can and cannot do for our students in the future, just like what's relevant for them, what's like the best timing for things. And I laughed. Like, I was actually at Laura's house when this happened, and I like just went in and just was like, man, that was weird. Like that, like there, and then I let it go, and we were able to like move on. I didn't perseverate on it, to where I think if I was new, and that would have happened, I would have thought about that for 30 days straight. Consumed me and my identity for 30 days straight. I'm in control over that. Like I could have, but I just chose to set it down and like move on, take the lessons and keep moving forward. Like
Yes.
that's the path of least resistance for me.
Ooh, I I know we've alluded to this before, but Shelby and I are now in a state of our business where a lot of nurse coaches that come to us, we're not their first business coach because we have previous grads who are their business coaches. And that just means that our community is growing. That just means that we've been in business long enough. That just means we have enough able-bodied mentees that know how to sell and know how to make money. And that's okay. And we're okay with that. But I'm also like acutely aware of the advantage that we have and the advantage that our clients have with hiring us first, because when you are in your first few years of business, you lack perspective. And inevitably, if you're mentoring new nurse coaches, they aren't making money for months at a time. They're getting 10 no's in a row. And if you don't have any context and experience, the only tool that you have is mindset. And you can only do so many sessions on mindset, and then it starts to feel like personal coaching and you're really not being a business mentor. But because we've ridden hard with you guys for years, like when somebody comes and they've had 10 no's, it's not a big deal. Yeah. Not a big deal. I can tell you 4 case studies, 4 stories, current clients right now that's happening to as well. And it's just not a big deal. And when you hear Shelby and I say that, we help regulate your nervous system. You borrow our Yoda-ish stance on it and you can move through it faster. Mindset's not enough.
Yeah.
Like just having somebody with perspective where you can actually be directed with perspective is so helpful. And I don't know that you and I had that to offer our clients until the last few years.
Yeah. I mean, frankly, it's just hours and time and years invested into it. Yeah. Yeah. And it's just a nature of being in the same niche for an extended period of time.
Yeah.
And I was even talking with our team the other day about our Make the Leap program because our team members, Amy and Sean, ran it the last time. And I was checking in and I was like, okay, this is where the group is at. Is this what you guys were experiencing last time? Kind of like, tracking of like, is this a similar experience? And all of the moments in Make the Leap, all the predictable freakouts in Make the Leap, like I'm ready for them. I've walked with hundreds of nurse coaches through the this is harder than I thought, or this is way more challenging than I could have ever anticipated. And it's bringing up all these deep, dark thoughts and beliefs about myself. Like I've run laps around this particular phase hundreds of times. And Amy Frame said something really powerful on me. She was like, or on that call, whenever we were brainstorming, she was like, a thing that I see in Make the Leap people or in Make the Leap clients is that they're like, it's not working for me. The system isn't working for me. And then I'm like, okay, tell me more about that. How many times has it not worked? And they're like, well, I did 3 invites and I didn't get any response. I'm like, yes, of course you didn't. And the advice Amy offered was, tell me when you've done 50 of them, if no one has responded. Tell me if you've done 100 of them and no one has responded. And I think rewind a few years, if someone came to me and said, Shelby, the system isn't working, I would have gotten stuck with them, honestly, right then in that moment of like, okay, let's pull it apart and figure out why it's not working.
Let's try something new.
And like, let's get weird with it. And then we would burn time versus I'm like, yeah, of course, 3 people. That's crazy expectations for 3 people.
Yeah.
Go do 50 more and then tell me how that is.
Yeah.
And that I think the gift of perspective, it's something that our mentor gives us often too, whenever we get spun up of like, you have nothing to worry about. It's just like, we haven't been there yet. We haven't touched the next level yet. So I don't know what it's like. And I feel like I'm walking around in the dark and
it's not working, Shelby.
And it's not working. I was just telling him yesterday about how I don't feel like it's working. I was like, the dam has to break eventually. But right now it feels like I'm pouring water into an endless bucket. That's what it feels like. And it's humbling, dude. It's humbling to be here again.
I love it. I was telling all of our masters yesterday, I was like, yo, we're building together. Like you're in a new business. I'm in a new business. And we are like, we're in the weeds together. And there is this, and then from that perspective, and you and I get to do this together, which makes it so much fun.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, let's just go be in the weeds and fucking play around and like see what happens, as opposed to I don't like the weeds. There's something wrong in the weeds. The weeds are bad. I am bad. I'm a shitty coach. Like that's the alternative place to go. Let me ask you this really quick, Shelby. Right now, what things do you not like doing that you have to do them weekly in business?
And right now, the things that I like feel my head drop a little bit. Big one is tech. Like I'm trying to figure out how to like add this thing on our website and it's driving me nuts. I've been trying to figure it out for like 3 weeks. And I know that once I figure it out, it's gonna be like, oh, that's a really simple answer. But I can't figure out how to do this one particular thing and it haunts me at night. To be honest, the follow-up game for me right now is a little I can do it once I've started, but every time I see the task on my to-do list of like follow up with leads or follow up with people, I have to like take a deep breath because I mean, in full transparency, I have a lot of judgment for people who just won't buy our course that I've talked to. I'm like, what do you mean? What do you mean you need to think about it some more? Like, and that's my own BS that I want to be present with and let it not get in the way. I think those are the two big ones right now, and both of them, the tech and the follow-up, are necessary. Like we don't get to, there's no reality to where I'm going to skip that task because I know we want to fill for January. Like I know, yeah. So those are my two big ones right now.
Yeah.
What about you?
I love that. I love follow-up game is like kind of like a cold plunge. It sucks the first 30 seconds and then it's great. Right?
Yeah.
Like, so it just never sounds good. It's not like, oh, I can't wait to open up Active Campaign and to start. Like that's just never. So like I get that. Tech for sure, like lighting, video, especially like that's probably I legit am handicapped. Like I am very good at so many things and I'm very not good at that. And so I don't like doing things I'm not good at. So that's part of anything that I feel like I'm not good at, I don't want to do. And so you have two choices. You can buffalo and become good at it, or you can run and never
just follow you forever. Yeah.
It just follows you forever. And then I would say hiring, I just fired my house manager. So like hiring staff and training staff, I don't know that I'm good at that yet. So I don't look forward to it, really. I just don't like doing things I'm not per se good at. So really for me, what I don't want to do is things that I'm not good at yet. And then that makes it pretty clear where the work lies for me.
Yeah, that's a good thing to take to your coach on the next session. Well, it's kind of like this weird thing of like, if things are too easy, I also don't like doing them. Like, I like doing hard things. So then it's just like this constant mind fuck of like, well, what's hard enough, but not too hard that it challenges your ego? Like, God, eye roll. But yeah, it's I think that, again, just like the essence of being the buffalo here of like, and also kind of just like poking fun at yourself. Like, if it's possible to do. We were at our master's retreat a few weeks ago and we were doing this exercise. I made everybody do like a brand interview. So I gave them a list of questions about their ideal client and how they help people and what people are experiencing before they work with them and what they experience when they work with them. And we're going to do these cool like promotional videos for them. And so we were doing a test run the night before, just like kind of bouncing the questions off one another and workshopping to make it more clear. And one of our clients, I asked her the question of like, if you could give a piece of advice to your younger self, what would you say? And she was like, I would tell them to not work so hard and to not worry about it so much. And she has been spending probably the past 2 to 4 weeks working very hard and worrying too much. And I just looked at her and I was like, LOL, babe, like that's really funny that you would say that right now. And we were able to just like bust out into belly laughs and take the sting out of it a little bit. It's like sometimes our best advice comes from ourselves. But I also too, just like a final mindset moment to like, or a different framework to try on is if you go about your day as a small business owner, as a new coach, and you are looking for reasons on why it's hard, why it's challenging, why you're not good enough, why you're not worthy enough, you will always find it. You will always find a reason. We can construe any situation to mean whatever it needs to mean to confirm that belief. And so instead of that, swapping out to how can I just show up for what my business is today? Like, okay, I haven't signed a client this month. How can I just be present with that neutral truth and choose a thought that's going to move the needle forward? Being able to show up for what is instead of what it isn't, and being mad about what it isn't, that it's not easier, that it's not like more clear, or that it's not more fun, and just like show up for what it is right now is the only way through. Like, I don't know that I have any other advice on how
Right.
to get through it.
And the payoff is so huge because once you've managed that, once you successfully had enough consciousness to direct your thoughts through difficult moments, then what becomes possible for you in business and in life in general, it just opens up. I mean, if you had been contemplating doing real estate investing, I mean, there's anything that we've done where we've taken a risk. The only reason I could take the risk is that I trusted that I could do things I didn't want to do. And if you don't trust yourself to do things you don't want to do, you'll never take a risk and you'll just have what you have current.
Yeah.
That's the two paths forward. So it's like, from that perspective, it's so worthwhile, regardless if you have paid clients this month. It doesn't matter. Just look at it as self-development. Like this year, my first year in business is self-development, and anything else is icing on the cake. That's a great approach.
Yeah, a good way to stay unattached. A good way to stay unattached. All right. I feel pretty good about this one, Laura. Anything else to wrap it up for you?
I feel like I want to say is that if you are able to do things you don't want to do, you'll be able to do all the things that you want to do. Yeah.
Well said. Well said. All right, homies, let us know if this podcast episode was for you today. Whenever we do these styles of episodes, inevitably someone is in my inbox being like, how did you read my mind? I say, I don't know. I'm a magician. I'm learning. So let us know. Let us know if it was for you today. And we will see you same place, same time here next week.
Bye, guys.
Oh, hey.